Okay, so this is just a quick little tutorial on making these micro or mini hothouse seed raisers out of plastic bottles. Essentially, I'm going to use water bottles. I've also got some coloured plastic bottles, Coke bottles that are clear, and we're going to see if they work out to be useful for seed raising when you don't have a hothouse. So essentially the tools that you need are pretty simple. Obviously you're going to want your plastic bottles. I reckon any size would do. I'm using these 1.5 litre bottles because we just have an abundance of them. A really good nice sharp knife, craft knife would be fine. This knife here is just this paring knife, just a really good sharp thin blade knife. A vivid or an indelible marker that'll write on the plastic for marking where you want to cut. You can do it freehand if you want. I've done most of mine freehand, but marking does help. I've also got a candle lit over here, and I've got a pick that's just sitting in the jar because it was hot, and what I use this for is to heat up in the flame of the candle and then use that to press through the plastic in the base to make drain holes so that you don't end up with potting mix or seed raising mix that becomes too sodden in water. It lets the water drain through, which is especially important with germination. Seeds don't like to get too wet, otherwise they rot and mold. So first step is to remove the label. Next step will be to mark where you want to cut around the bottle, and then the third step is to mark and pierce the drain holes in the bottle, and that's pretty well it until you come to use it. So I shall do the steps and I'll stop for a second so that I can do them, and then I'll show you. Okay, so my label's removed and I have marked on the bottle where I'm going to cut the bottle in half. With this particular shape of bottle, you essentially aren't always going to be cutting in the exact same place along the length of the bottle because of the contours and the shapes of the plastic of the bottle. The idea is that you want the top of the bottle to slide over the bottom half of the bottle. Your seed raising medium, potting soil, compost, whatever you want to call it, is going to be obviously in the bottom half of the bottle with your seeds. And so you are wanting it to build a hothouse type environment, so you're going to need the top half to slide over the bottom half. I've had a little bit of trial and error. I've tried a few different places on these bottles as to cutting them, and to be honest, they all work. If you find that your top won't slide over your bottom, this type of plastic is actually heat sensitive plastic, so you can gently warm the area that is too big to have it condense down a little bit. So if you need to do that, that's doable. I've done it with a number of them, and you can do that. I've just found for this particular bottle, this area on the bottle is the best place for what I'm wanting and for the overall height that I'm wanting. So I'll cut that and come back and show you in just a second. So now that we've got the bottle in two pieces, I'm going to flip the end up, and I'm going to mark where I want to put my drainage holes. I'm going to do an outside ring and then a ring slightly more close to the center. This does have a shaped base, so for this, obviously the moisture is going to run more to the outside than it is in the inside, because the inside is when I put it up the right way, the inside is raised. If you had a particularly flat bottom bottle, you'd want to make sure that you've got at least some drain holes at the lowest point. Otherwise, the lowest point of the bottle, all the water is going to collect there even though it drains in the other areas, it will collect in that lower portion to a point, and that could cause some rotting. It could cause some problems with keeping things a little bit too moist. So I'm going to mark and push the hot pick through to make the holes, and then I'll come back and put it together and show you what it looks like. So I've marked where the holes are going to go, and for this I simply just put the hot pick into the flame and wait until it's nice and hot, and then it's a case of lining up your hole, and it should, if it's hot enough, just push through. It's obviously not hot enough, and this piece of plastic is quite thick, so I'm going to go back to the flame, heat it up a little bit more. It's likely because I took my time in getting it to the plastic, and as you can see, it just pushes through the plastic. Be careful, I'm doing it one-handed, which probably isn't that safe, but you can see what's happening and you can get the idea. So I'll finish that off and I'll be back. So now all the holes have been put in the base, and it's just a matter of turning it over, lining up your top, which is easier said than done one-handed. Actually be back. Yep, two hands was definitely better. So that gives you a much shorter bottle, but it gives it gives you the ability to take the top off to obviously put your potting media in, your seeds in. You can take the top half off to remove your plants when they're ready to plant out. You can obviously take the lid off if you want to. It's probably a good idea if you were going to leave the lid on. You could put some ventilation holes around the top of the bottle if you just wanted to have a slightly more controlled ventilation. But other than that, it's pretty simple. It's not exactly the hardest thing to do in the world, but I'm hoping that it is quite useful for anybody who doesn't have a hothouse or a glass house, or who just wants something alternative to raise their seeds in. And I will do an updated video once I've actually got some planted up with seeds in them. But for now, that's how I've made them. That's what they're for, and hope that helps.